Welcome everyone to another episode of Success Pattern Show. I am so excited to be here with the one and only Marty Greene, coming right out of our vacation. And Marty, you look very relaxed as well in your beautiful white shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, Marty Greene is a wonderful, wonderful, successful man. I want to call you a Renaissance man in a really good way. He is a John Maxwell trainer. He is a certified bank trainer. He's a very successful business owner. You just started a new podcast not long ago, Marty. What was that called? Or what is that called?
It's called Top of Mind Podcast.
Top of Mind. I love that. And I want to take that apart later on a little bit. On top of that, you're very successful with selling on the spot Jane Moore's program, which is your own program within that. Top of Mind. I want to talk about that in a little bit. And you have some incredible superpowers, Marty. You know, I'm honored to have you here. Tell our listeners and viewers who you are and what's your superpower.
Well, thank you, Brigitta, for inviting me, first of all. And you look wonderful after your vacation as well. Puerto Rico did well for you.
It really did.
Thank you. You look really relaxed. So I'm Marty Greene, otherwise known as Top of Mind Guy. And what I do is I help people learn what needs to be at the top of their mind so they will be at the top of mind of their clients and prospects. And I do that through personalized training. I help people become more self-reliant, more successful, and more resourceful, again, through personalized training and group workshops and resource-driven tools.
Very nice. So top of mind is somewhat also a little bit of a play on words, if you will, right? You want to be top of mind with your clients, and you also always want to be on the top of your own mind and your own mindset. And you know, we're going into clearly the show is called Success Patterns. We're going into success and how can you be top of mind, and therefore, you know, the result of being top of your mind is success. So how do you define success, Marty? And how do you specifically help other people to be top of mind?
Wow, great questions. Well, I guess I define success by how many people's lives you can impact in a really positive way. Because when it all comes down to it, whatever you have that's material doesn't go with you. The only thing that really goes with you is your legacy that you can leave behind, and the kind of impact you've had on the world and on other people. So that's how I define success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer is that if you really want to add value to people, you have to know what they value. And so the first thing is to be able to calibrate what it is that those people value and how they respond and how their view of the world, so that when you communicate with them, you can communicate on their level instead of trying to force them on yours, because otherwise you end up just talking at each other or across from each other.
Yeah, you said some really great things, and I want to take them apart a little bit with you, with your permission. You know, you say you calibrate on behavior, you calibrate on what they're saying. What does that mean, and how do you do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways. As you mentioned, I'm a certified bank trainer, and I'm also an NLP master practitioner. So and a John Maxwell trainer. And what I do is I combine those three things because all of them involve leadership. Everything really rises and falls on leadership, and you can't lead someone unless they want to be led by you, right? And if they won't be led by you unless they respect you and trust you and like you, of course. So developing that know, like, and trust is a critical thing. And so the key to that is to be able to communicate with them. And the way I do that first is by learning what they value. People make buy-in or buy-in decisions based on their values and also on how they hear you, whether it's some people are more oral and some people are more visual. So being able to learn how it is that they relate to the world helps me communicate with them in their language. And we use actually a methodology called BANK to learn about the values. And then I just ask questions that try to help me understand which senses they really use most, to which I can connect with them, whether they're hearing or feeling or sounding. And by asking those questions, it helps me learn about them, so I can talk to them in the language that they're going to relate to. Yeah, you've heard people say, "Oh, now you're talking my language, right?" Well, that's kind of what it means. How do you talk their language? Most people talk in their own language and not theirs. So but you have to know what theirs is first, right?
You said this several times now today, and thank you for bringing this up. As you are defining success, because everyone defines success in a different way,
Sure.
and yet the way that you defined it, you didn't make it about you made it about the other, right? Same with your communication. You didn't make it about yourself, you made it about the other. So I see already a success pattern there, that you are, in order for someone to know, like, and trust you, it's not about you. You make it about them. Tell me more about that. How do you do that? Maybe you have a story to tell. I'm pretty sure you have many stories to tell.
A couple. Well,
A couple.
yeah. Well, I really love people, and I love learning about people's journeys, right? So that's really been that. I guess that's one of my superpowers, is that it doesn't matter to me whether somebody is what level of life they are, or where they are in the financial totem pole or success totem pole. I think everybody has a story that I can learn from. So we'll start with that. And so I'm very aware of that, and so it's really important to me to key into what they're learning. So if I can, if I don't have the availability of the cards that I use to ask them the right questions, I'll just ask them particular questions, like what do you value? I'll just ask them about themselves. Like I was at a wedding this past weekend where the groom was actually a policeman, and I did crack his code, and I learned, okay, he was actually a nurturer first, and then a blueprint. Obviously, to be a policeman, blueprint has to be up there really high. And what blueprint means is that they really value structure and stability and the rules. Why a cop would need to have that about them, but
yeah, you think, right?
Exactly. But you'd also like to think that they like people and they care about people, and that was actually his first. So that really made it easy for me to talk to him about his stories, because I could hear, I could really tone the stories towards those things, like towards those values. And so we had a great conversation where I'm not sure I would have necessarily had a great conversation with a policeman otherwise. Usually it's about obedience and compliance, right?
And would you also say that it was a little bit easier for you because, clearly I know you, and you're a very nurturing person, right? So it's easy for you to communicate in something that is known to you, although you are an incredible trainer, John Maxwell trained and Bank trained and NLP trained. So you have a lot of those arrows in your quiver, if you will. But would you say that for anyone that's listening, if you are talking to someone that is very much like you, it's easier to build that know, like, and trust foundation?
For sure.
Would that be fair to say?
Oh, 100%. Yes. That was what you're hearing me say now wasn't always the way I was. It used to be that I could only talk to people effectively who were nurturers, or people who are very strong knowledge people, because that's my kind of my third code. So I could talk to people like that, but people who are really action people, who are very much into their themselves, or they just want to know the bottom line, I really had a hard time talking to people like that, because I couldn't relate to it, and they couldn't relate to me. So it took learning those skills and having an awareness that you don't have those skills first, right? And then growing into it. It's kind of John Maxwell's second law, is the law of awareness. In order to grow yourself, you have to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, you have to grow yourself. And that's a really strong, that's why it's not called a suggestion, it's called a law.
Exactly. It's not a maybe if, it would be nice to have. It is a must have.
Yes.
Yeah. that's why I like laws, and of course, I'm action first and blueprint second. So I appreciate laws because they give me personally a guardrail, and they also give me some sort of boundaries for reinforcement. But I really like the what you said about the police officer and how you were able to connect with that person, and sharing your own personal stories of how it was in the past, and how you're dealing with that now, and how you're helping other people to overcome that, and to actually tune into people's favorite radio station. I like to call it their favorite radio station, WIIFM, right? Everyone wants to talk about themselves. And by you tuning into their favorite radio station, you give them a platform and a foundation to talk about themselves. And that will allow you to talk to them on their value system and in their representational system.
It also allows me to learn from them because they're more open about sharing their stories. And that's how I learn. So it really is a win-win situation.
Yeah. I think it was the Dalai Lama that said, people that only talk all the time hear the same thing over and over again. But if you actually take a breath and listen, you'll actually learn something new. And that's a real virtue, right? And I think we can all learn from that. Marty, what would you say is, you've been around the sun several times. What would you say around your trips around the sun that is like a reoccurring success pattern, something that you have done probably over and over and over again that you have become aware of over the years, where you go, that's a pattern that keeps showing up and it works really well for me, that other people can learn from?
Okay. I guess for me, it's, again, starting with that awareness of something, some gap. And it could be in sports, it could be in business, it could be anything. Just golf. I mean, when I realized that I wasn't very good at chipping or putting, I learned. I got a mentor who taught me how to chip and putt better. So if you're going to do that with golf and with tennis, I didn't know how to volley very well, and I was a terrible doubles player because I was always in the wrong place. So I learned the basics of how to play doubles from a tennis coach. Well, if you're going to do it with sports, then why wouldn't you do that in all the other phases of your life, right? So right. So the pattern is that I figure out where my gaps are. I find the mentor to learn that, who has that ability, and I listen to what they say and follow their pattern. I read I learn their blueprint and then follow that. And you're one of those. You're one of those people.
And it's all about expert modeling, right? What you're doing is you're looking for an expert model that you can model and learn from, and model that, and then pass it on to others. Because clearly, you guys that are watching this, I know so many great stories that Marty is able to tell, and there's great analogies of him going out on the golf course or playing tennis that immediately translate into business or your personal life. And there's great value there. And we can learn from that if we take the time to listen and to plug into other people's success patterns, because then we can model them and have success, whatever that means to you, in our own lives.
Yes. And sorry about the dog in the background. A pool guy showed up.
You know what? The dog is very opinionated, and I'm surprised that my dog didn't hear your dog and answered the dog. I'm very surprised about that. So that's the beauty of working in a post-pandemic world, from home, where we have the dogs and the kids and everything else. And I think he just heard me because he just did a little bark. So Marty, thank you for being here. How do people get in touch with you?
Best way is my digital business card is martygreene.info, INFO. And it's
martygreene.info.
Right, and green with an E at the end. So it's MARTYGREENE.info. And you can actually schedule an appointment if you'd like to chat. And so I'd love to learn what interests you and how I can serve you.
I love that. So get with Marty. He's very, very easy to talk to, as you already heard. He's got great knowledge. He's a wealth of knowledge, and Marty's heart is just so big and open. So thank you, Marty, for being here. Get with him, martygreene.info. So get with martygreene.info, chat with him, learn from him, schedule an appointment with him. Marty, thank you for being here. I'm going to share the recording with everyone. Tune in again tomorrow for another Success Pattern show. Marty, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Bye for now.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye now.
Bye-bye.